So this is the graph below. So we have to solve for the domain, range, X-intercept, Y-intercept, odd, even, or neutral. So we have to take a look at the graph below. So this indicates that the graph itself is a function f of x. So first thing to do is to determine the domain. So this is just more of an observation. So to determine the domain of a function, we have to look for the x-axis. If we have to take a look of the x-axis from left to right, you can see that the left portion of the x-axis is marked by an arrow. So arrow means that the line is going to the left at infinite rate. So there is no ending on the point because this is not an endpoint. Since at the negative part of the x-axis is marked with an arrow, which it says at the left portion, this is infinite, negative infinite. But if we look at the positive iteration of the x-axis, this is also marked with an arrow. There's no endpoint in here. So that would be a positive infinite. You cannot determine where it will end. So B, range. To determine the range of this function, instead of going for the x-axis, which is the domain, range is analyzing the endpoints of the y-axis. So we have to take a look at the y-axis from the bottom to the top. So as you see at the bottom, same goes for the domain such that there is no endpoint. This is an arrow sign. So if you go starting from the bottom, arrow signs means this is a continuous again. So this is negative infinite because there's no endpoint. Then to the positive portion, it is also marked with an arrow, which means that this is already forever going up and so on. So this is an infinite. For C, X-intercept. So there are two ways to solve for X and Y-intercepts, both of them. You can solve by using a graphical method. By graphical method means you have to plot where the Y or where the X, as if you put a number in there. But you can also use a substitution method where you can use algebra and substituting either of them to be 0 so that you can get the value of the other variable. But here there is no given algebra in there, so you have to use the graphical method. So by graphical method to get the x-intercept, we have to let y go. So as y equals 0, we have to plot where the x locates. So the x locates at 1. So therefore x is equal to 1. So you can also have this answer 1, 0, because that would mean x and y. Same goes for D, for y-intercept. For y-intercept, you have to take x is equal to 0 so that you can get the value of y. By using graphical method, you have to plot again this x equals 0, and then you have to determine where is the y. So going down there, it is already plot at negative 2. Therefore, y is equal to negative 2. Is this function odd, even, or neither? Sorry for a mistake. My mistake. So that would be odd, even, or neither. The problem is that the function itself does not determine if it is either a linear or some form of u function, which is an x squared graph. This is called parabolic. This is linear. Parabola, linear, and some form of logarithmic. But this graph has some forms of linear. But here at this portion, this is not a linear, this is just a line. So therefore, the graph itself is not symmetrical, or you can say you cannot determine how you will solve if it is either an odd or an even. So the answer there would be neither, because there is no way for you to determine if it is an odd or an even. If p varies directly as a cube of q and p is equal to 26 when q is equal to 2, find p when q is equal to 5. So this is a mathematical modeling and variation problem. So the given is when q is equal to 2, p is equal to 26. That is given. But when q is equal to 5, p is equal to unknown. But then there is a hint where p varies directly as the cube of q. This implies that the problem is some sort of direct variation, where direct variation does have the formula of y is equal to kx, where k is a variable. We call it constant. So what we are going to do is we have to solve for the constant. So what is step 1? Step 1 is we have to solve for the value of the constant by determining the formula, and we have to set it as y is equal to kx. So we have to rewrite. We have to rewrite this formula as p is equal to k q raised to the power of cube, which is 3. So step 2, solve for k. So to solve for k, we have to substitute all the values. What is p? P is equal to 26. K q, which is 2. K, which is then k is equal to 30 over 4. This is a simplified answer. Step 3. Step 3 is you have to substitute using the newly found constant, which is k. So, using the formula, p is equal to 13 over 4 q raised to the cube, which is then 13 over 4 raised to the power of cube, the value of 5. (13.45 to the raised to the cube is equal to 125. Which is then the answer to be simplified is p is equal to 406.25.